Hey guys, it's Liam from Elevate Automotive, and today we're going to be going through the differences between our BYD Shark 6 and this GWM Cannon Alpha plug-in hybrid. So let's get into it. Yeah, so luckily today we've gotten the chance from GWM Australia. They reached out to us a couple of months back and sort of said if we want to test out one of these new Cannon Alphas. So this is the brand new plug-in hybrid model they brought out recently, which is a direct competitor to the Shark that's been out for a while. As you'll know, this is our own Shark. We've had it, done plenty of trips in it, plenty of testing off-road. So it's a good chance to sort of get this vehicle out and compare the differences between the two of them. So if you're looking at probably purchasing one of the two of them or just one of the differences between the technology that each one of them have, this video we're going to go through a direct comparison between each one of them and sort of modifications as well, what you might be thinking about if you're wanting to mod one of these vehicles. So some little points in there as well. So we'll get into that and we'll start off in the back of the vehicle and each of the tubs and we'll see what you got in there. Alrighty, so here we are at the back of our Shark. Pretty standard tailgate as you see with most utes. We'll get to the Cannon, that's got something a bit different, but you just got a button here, click at the top, and that brings it down for you. So that's pretty standard. In the tub here, it's got some nice features. We've obviously fitted a HSP roller cover to this as well, which is an add-on, but they do come with a pretty nice set of add-ons in here from the beginning. They got some light switches over there, so they come with some lights already built into the tub, as well as some sockets over in here. So one thing that the Shark has, which the GWM doesn't, is it already comes with GPOs in the back for outlets. So with the GWM, you do have to run a V2L vehicle to load plug out of the charge point on the side. So it's a bit more annoying to use in the Shark. It's got a bit more easier space. The other thing that's nice in here is the tub's a lot more conventional and flat. So it's a great, easy to use space. Comes with some nice add-ons and it's pretty easy to add stuff on. So we'll jump into the Cannon and I'll show you some of the differences in the tub and usability wise for that. Alrighty, so here we're now at the back of the Cannon. One big thing that's an obvious eyesore you'll easily see is that spare tyre. You might have seen a bit about it. It is kind of required for a ute these days to have a sort of full-size spare tyre. With the Shark, they do come with a factory spare underneath. One thing is, if you do get bigger tyres, like how we've got our 34-inch tyres on ours, the spare also won't fit under there still. So yes, it is a big thing to have it here. There is still going to be the case, if you're looking at upgrading tyres, you're probably still going to have the same case with the Shark. So do keep that in mind. One great feature this has is the nice combination tailgate it has. You'll see the nice big line through here, so it's a bit of an eyesore if you're sort of standing behind it, but it is because it has two features. You can tap this button once and you'll get it as a standard sort of split tailgate, so like Land Cruisers used to have for a while. You get that there and you can easily get in and have access into the back in here. So if you want to sort of load something in that's a bit heavy, you've got a nice easy to get into spot, but you can also still use it your conventional way by holding down that button for a bit longer and it will pop down like a standard ute tailgate. So you get a bit of dual functionality with that. One thing I have found, this button, it might just be because this is a pre-production model, it is a bit sticking sometimes. So if we stick it on the wrong angle, it can get stuck in there a bit, but hopefully I'll fix that. One other thing you will notice in this tub, it's a bit more unorthodox, a bit basic. So when we go in here, you'll see there's a giant lip in here. That's because the batteries are stored underneath there. So it's gonna have a bit of a lip for that as well. So you kind of go about drilling holes underneath here. You wanna be quite safe with what you're doing through here. But one thing they have done is there's already threaded inserts in here. So there is a spray and tub liner as you can see. So you would have to tap out these holes just to get the actual thread to work. But if you do want to add anything on, you've already got some pre-drilled holes in here that are already threaded to put stuff in. So that's a really nice feature. And not many utes really have that as a usable option. The tub is a bit more basic. You'll notice that there's no lights or outlets or anything in here. So if you are looking for something that's a bit easier to chuck a fridge in immediately for a weekend, this might not be as nice. Obviously the spare tyre is another big thing. So if you are looking at the chance of maybe a roller cover or something like that, you'll have to remove that contraption they have. So that is something to definitely keep in mind between the two of them, but it's probably not as big a problem as I was saying before. If you're looking at upgrading the tyres, you'll have to sort of figure out a solution anyways for that. So that's sort of the main differences between the tub and usability as a ute. We'll jump into the engine bay now and sort of talk about the differences between the hybrid systems that both these vehicles have and sort of real world use cases. Alrighty, so here we're in the engine bay of the Shark. One thing that is a big difference between these two is how the hybrid system really works. The Shark is more of like an EV, so it has EV motors for both the front axle and rear axle. There actually isn't any connection from the engine to the rear axle, it's just batteries underneath there. So that's one big difference, is it's a much more of an EV with a generator. So it's much better for city driving. So if you're doing continuous driving between the city and maybe one trip a year or so, and you're okay with maybe the little bit of worse fuel economy over the open road, that's one thing where the Shark really shines. So we've got an EV charger here. We charge this vehicle up every single day. It means the guys only have to fill it up every month or so. So it does really sort of make this thing a much nicer vehicle for that use case. One other nice thing as well is being an EV, you get a much more easier pick up and go. Not saying the Cannon's not going to be a quick car either, but the EV does have such a good pickup and such quick power off the line. There's not really much else that can really compare against it. So that's a really great thing this has. You'll see in here the engine bay is quite a bit, I wouldn't say cramped, but there's a lot of differences between what you normally see in a conventional engine bay. Obviously we've already mounted a compressor up under here, so that's something that not all of them will come with. There's the ECU over here, there's a little fuse box here. So if you do ever need to jump this vehicle, there is actually a tab under here to jump start it. But as you'll notice, there is no start battery. So the actual start battery is located underneath the rear seats, and it's a little lithium battery underneath there. So that's one big difference. There's not an easier battery in here. There is still an airbox, a motor, and all your sort of filler fluids in here. So you've still got some conventional engine bay stuff, but you'll also notice there's a lot of orange cables through this engine bay because there are a lot of high voltage equipment in here too. So you have to keep that in mind and be careful with some of those equipment when you're funneling around with this stuff. So that makes one thing with this engine bay. If you are wanting to add accessories on yourself, this fuse box is nice to add on accessories onto, but there is a bit of limitation. So you have to keep that in mind. There is space under the back, so if you're looking at adding on a compressor like we have here, there's a nice fuse in here, you can reuse that, add it on there. You got a positive there and an earth you can reuse here. Same with lights, you can reuse this here, or in our case, we went all off the back because we mounted our relays and everything else in the back of the vehicle too, but you can make that mind up which way you want it to go. So now we'll jump into the Cannon. We'll sort of show you the engine bay on that one and have a quick sort of discussion about how that works as a hybrid as well. Alrighty, so now we're in front of the Cannon. You'll notice this engine bay is a little bit more conventional, you'd say. There is obviously a standard version of this Cannon Alpha that isn't a plug-in hybrid, so they've already got something to base this off of, whereas the Shark is just one model that is only going to be that plug-in hybrid version. You got a conventional 12-volt start battery underneath here, and that's a standard battery. It's not like anything special like that lithium one the Shark has. So you can easily modify stuff off here. There is a bit of a protection cover over the positive, but your negative is still over here. You'll notice there are also some orange high voltage cables there, so that's where you want to be careful of them too. But you've got other conventional stuff in here too. So there's sort of a big difference there is battery. One of them doesn't really have one. The other one has got a standard battery in here. And there's a lot of stuff in here saying not to directly power wash too. So if you are sort of wanting to wash this thing, you have to be a bit careful about some of this sort of space in here. When it comes to the motor, this is more of a conventional vehicle. So if you ever think about a conventional hybrid, this is going to be like that. So it's still obviously got the engine, it's got a 9-speed automatic gearbox, conventional transfer case, and front and rear differentials. It just happens to have a battery bank in it that can assist this around. So there is sometimes it'll just run on its EV by itself without having the engine run. So that's a bit of a party piece you can show your mates, is not having to run around with the engine running. You can just have it sitting there on EV mode. As you all know, the batteries are in the back. So they're in the tub at the very back underneath each other. This has a 37 kilowatt hour battery system. The Shark's is a bit smaller, about 33 kilowatts. So this one is a bit higher with the battery storage capacity. The other thing is being a conventional hybrid with an actual engine and a conventional gearbox, it's going to get better fuel economy on the freeway. So that's one thing the Shark does suffer with, is long open drives where there's not much in terms of regen it can get. It will use more fuel. So that's the trade-off you get. This might be a little bit worse around town with a conventional motor, but and then on the open road, you get more fuel economy. When you compare it to something like the Shark, that's better around town because it's mainly an EV, and then you get the sort of trade-off when you go on long trips. You got to have that sort of worse fuel economy then. So that's sort of the main things you sort of see engine-wise between the two of them in here. We'll jump inside the cabin and sort of talk between the sort of build quality, internal, and some of the little life features you'll get with each one. Alrighty, so here we are inside the Shark. You might have seen some of our videos going through this as well. It's a pretty nice space to sit. You got some nice seats in here. So both the Canon and the Shark have got heated and ventilated seats. That's something really nice to have. Both of them have some pretty nice screens. You'll know with the Shark, you can also rotate that screen around. So pretty nice if you want to have something big up there, you can have that. Most of them will just leave that down flat as well. You can personalize a bit. You'll see we got a nice video of when we were down in Bornholm and went through a nice big mud hole in the car. So that's really nice on there. Both of them have really nice features in terms of autonomous driving, cruise control, all that kind of stuff. The Shark's a bit nicer, I find, with the lane keep assist and the distance it keeps between the cars in front of you. With the Shark, it's a bit nicer. It does sort of get closer to cars, if you will. The GWM does stick quite far away. It's very safe, probably a bit too safe with how far it sits away from cars. All your sort of standard terms of stuff on here. With the Shark, all your controls for your modes and stuff are on the steering wheel, so you can change through sport, normal, and eco on there, or your four-wheel drive modes, so your snow, sand, and mudlands, all on there. And you got some settings down here as well. So yes, the Shark's a really nice interior to be in general, nice for sort of long drives. We'll get into the Canon and sort of show some of the differences between the two of them. So let's jump over there and we'll have a look in there. Alrighty, so now we're inside the Canon Alpha plug-in hybrid. Really nice interior they've got in here. So it's a bit different of style than the Shark. The Shark's a bit more blacked out than this is. So you got a nice little wood grain dash over here, leather on the top, nice leather armrest here. The steering wheel's pretty nice. It's a bit thinner than what the Shark has. It's got paddle shifters on here. Obviously, it still has a manual gearbox when the Shark doesn't, so there is still a need to have one of these. You've got the same heated and ventilated seats down here. However, they do have physical buttons, so you don't have to go through menus on the screen to activate them, which is nice. Down here, you have your four-wheel drive controls. So these do have a conventional gearbox, as I said before. So you change your little dial through here. There's all sort of noises it makes as it goes through, but you can select into 4 high, put in neutral as I've got here, and you can actually select 4 low. So I just had that click in, not sure if you get that on the microphone, but that does click in into 4 low, and you have got front and rear locking differentials as well. So if you were planning on doing a lot of intense forward driving, you've got both those to sort of back you up, which is a really nice feature. There's also some nice mood lighting through here. So there's a little light, might be a bit hard to see, but there's a little thing in there about the Canon's front end. And there is some mood lighting through here, so that can sync to your music and stuff like that as well. Does have a pretty nice sound system as well. So it's also a nice interior. I'll probably put it that little step above the Shark. However, this is the Ultra model, so this is the top of the range of the Alpha that they do, so I will kind of expect it to be a bit nicer. Both of them do also have the same sort of features in terms of like a voice assistant. So this one has, high GWM. So you go high GWM, open all windows. And just like that, all the windows go down. So Shark does do the same thing as well. You say, hey Shark. Both of them have got those little features. So might be a little bit of a party trick. You might not use it that often, but it is good to say. So in case we go high GWM, close all windows. And just like that, it's back closed. One of the other things that the Canon has that the Shark doesn't is this sunroof. So at the top, you do have a sunroof in here. You can easily open that up and get some airflow in here if you wanted to. So you got a button there to move it all the way back, or just to tilt it as you normally do. So that's one nice thing. The Shark doesn't come with that option, but if you're ever looking at like a roof rack or something like that, this might not be the option for you, as they do sometimes defeat some headroom, as well as when you have a roof rack, you can't usually put it back up all the way. So we'll close that back in here and close that off. So it is one nice thing this has. We'll jump into the back seats and show you some of the big differences between the two of them, because there is some pretty nice ones between this Canon and the Shark that might make some decisions for you when you're purchasing one of these. Alrighty, so now we're in the back of the Canon. These are the back seats area. This is a bit nicer than what we have in the Shark. So you've got a rear view mirror in the rear window in here that slides back as well. So if you had like a Navara, they've got the same feature as well. That's just controlled down here. These back seats are also really nice. They've got heating and ventilated seats as well. You've got a nice center sort of in here. So you've got a wireless charger in here, a nice pocket to put some stuff as well as some nice cup holders down there. So if you really want to spoil the kids in the back, you've got that option in here with the Canon. One thing that is a bit nice and can be a bit of a detriment though, is they are electric seats. So you've got the adjustment to move them backwards and forwards. As you pull it forward, the back does go down as well. What this does mean is the seats don't fold up. So in the Shark and most conventional utes, you do have some pockets underneath the rear seats to put some stuff in. There is still a little pocket down here that you do have. It's pretty smaller and you can only put 1 kilo worth of stuff in them. So there's one here and one over there. So if you want to put something small in it, you could, but you wouldn't be putting too much in there. There is still some space behind the seats in here, which both do fold down, and there is some stuff like your jack in here, but there isn't really that much space to put something like a battery system. So we had a look to try and see what we could fit in terms of accessories behind here for a rear battery system. And unfortunately, due to just some of the hybrid and as well as the subwoofer stuff in here, it's not going to be possible for one of these vehicles. So we're looking for other solutions in terms of battery systems that we can offer for the end user. So that's pretty much most of the big stuff in here. You've got some other stuff in terms of charging points down here. Got some USBs. They're just USB-A's, they're not C's, unfortunately. So that's one big thing. One thing you'll see in the Shark that we don't have in here is the Shark does also have a GPO outlet in here. So if you wanted to run 240 appliances inside the vehicle, so if you want to run your fridge off the car or something like that, where you want it inside the vehicle, you do have the ability with the Shark, but you don't have that with the Canon. So saying that, we'll go jump in the Shark again and we'll show you the back seats in them and just sort of show you some of the more conventional ute differences that are in this versus that. Alrighty, so now we're in the back of the Shark. This is probably more of a conventional dual cab ute in the sort of rear seat capacity. These you can flip the bottom up of, so there's just a little lever down here, you pull that sort of tab and then you get space up under here. As you may have seen in some of our other videos, this is where we put up a lot of our sort of fuses and electrical stuff. So underneath there is the starter battery, as well as the fuse box and relays we used for all of the lighting we put in this vehicle. So that's one great thing you get with this one that you don't unfortunately have with the Canon, is you lose a lot of that space. As I was sort of saying before, when you get the Canon, there's a bit more luxury features in the back of it. So with our sort of heated ventilated seats that you get, that window that you can open up and in the back as well. So that's some features that this probably lacks a bit. However, this does have a bit more in terms of charging. You do still have aircon vents in the back with both of them. This has got a normal 10 amp GPO in the back, as I said before. So if you do want to run something in the back, you can plug that in there. We do also have a USB-A and USB-C. So if you had something that was a bit new and needed that, you've got that there as well. In the center armrest, but more basic, just an armrest with 2 cup holders. So pretty simple when you compare that to Canon, where that's got a bit more in terms of new things in there, bit different. I'll pop the back down as well. So similar case as well. You've got a big sort of subwoofer unit in here and then tools over there. So you haven't really got much space behind these new utes to chuck a lot of things in. So in terms for aftermarket battery systems or something like that, we're both developing ones for both the Shark and the Canon to sort of see what we can offer in terms of tub solutions, because unfortunately both engine bay and cabin solutions won't really work for each one of them. So that's one thing to keep in mind with each of these. If you're comparing them maybe to a standard ute like your Hilux or D-Max, them being more basic without any of these EV or battery features allows for accessory fitting to be done in sort of these more hidden locations before the OEM manufacturer tries to put some stuff in here. That's one thing to definitely keep in mind when you're sort of considering one of these vehicles. If you're wanting to sort of use them for extended touring, you'll have to take up some space in the tub for a battery system or sort of those sort of like things. So that's most of it now. We'll go over most of the outside features on each vehicle and sort of show you charging port differences and just rough things we haven't covered over just yet as well. Okay, so one thing we haven't covered as of yet is the physical sizing between the two vehicles. You'll probably notice our Shark's a bit taller than what this Canon is. That's because it does have a lift and bigger wheels on it, so it's going to have that already. But when you sort of compare them stock to stock, the Canon is a bit of a bigger vehicle. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It is a bit bigger. They're sort of in their own class. It's sort of coming through. We're seeing a lot of these sort of Chinese vehicles come in that are sort of in between the sort of F-150 and sort of conventional dual cab size. So that's one thing we're sort of comparing the two of them. If you, like with our Shark, we're compared against our D-Max, you'd notice it's quite a bit wider and taller and longer than each of that. So it's just this new class that's coming out. The range is probably in that sort of class as well. It's a bit of a bigger vehicle, but most of the other dual cabs that are out there are quite a bit smaller. We'll just give a bit of a walk around the Canon now to sort of show you some of the things we haven't sort of gone through as of yet. The styling is quite a bit nice. It's got some pretty big fender flares, so nice big wheel arches to sort of accentuate it. On the front of it, the grille's black. That's exclusive to these plug-in hybrid models. So if you're trying to keep an eye out for one, that's one thing to keep a difference between them, apart from the obvious one of the spare tyre in the back as well. One other weird thing you'll find is this rear door. It's got a bit of a curve to it. It actually goes around the sort of back of this sort of thing here, and it actually has 2 seals in there. So there's 2 seals in the door and 1 in here. And one weird thing you'll get, which is pretty unique to these Canons, is they've got a little bit of storage in here. So if you wanted to keep maybe a flashlight, a knife, maybe even the 10mm socket or something like that to hide away, you've got something in here, and that's on both sides. And the benefit of it is once you close this door, it's gone, and if you lock the car, it is also locked. So it's a nice, easy way to hide stuff away where you want it, maybe not want to get the kids to get to it, but you still want it to be easy to access. Nice, great thing this has. On the side over here, you do also have your charging port. So this does function with both AC and DC charging. So both the Shark and the Canon will have 7 kilowatt charging. So that'll charge those batteries up pretty nice from AC. You do also have faster charging from DC, about 50 kilowatt charging. So if you do need to get a fast charging, both these can support some form of fast charging. As I mentioned before in the tub section, with the vehicle to load system on the Canon, if you do want to run anything actually off of it via a GPO, you will have to buy one of those accessories that allows you to plug it into the outlet in here and then use that function. So that's one large difference when it comes to sort of the overlanding or camping side of these vehicles. It's a bit harder to use your battery system for that than it is on the Shark, where they really thought about it from the beginning in terms of being able to use those outlets for aftermarket uses. So if you ever wanted to run a battery system off of a charger or something like that, it's a bit hard on one of these. Or if you're on our Shark has used a battery box with an AC charger in it, that way the sockets always turn off when the vehicle turns off. You know it's going to get charged up pretty quick from that charger. So it's pretty easy to way to get a battery system plugged in. You don't have to worry about a DC charger. You can just use an AC to DC charger. With one of these, if you want to go a battery system, it's going to be a conventional way, running power from the battery into the back via a DC charger. So if you want to do something yourself, the Shark might be a little bit easier, although the Canon is probably a bit better of a camping vehicle when it comes to range, as well as how the suspension is set up. We'll jump over to the Shark now, and we'll show you some of the features you might not know that you've seen before. Alrighty, so now we're at the front of the Shark in here. Pretty nice front end, as you all have seen before. You got a nice, more sort of uniform look when you sort of compare it to the Canon. It's got a bit more of a standardized, maybe more American look. These are a bit more sort of futuristic, if you will, with the DRL going all the way through here and then across the top and back down. We've obviously accentuated that with ours, with having the extra air lights on the top here as well. So that's one big difference, is the sort of just front end impact you'll have on each of them. Both of them are nice wide vehicles, but the Shark does have a bit more of a newer futuristic look when you compare it to one of those. One thing that I haven't covered as yet is both these vehicles do come with roof rails from the factory. Obviously we've replaced ours with our own roof rack on the top of it already, but they do both come with roof rails. So if you are wanting to add something onto the standard pair of crossbars, it is pretty easy to do it yourself, just to add on an awning. When it would come to a full roof rack though, if you're wanting to like remove them and get like a backbone style system, they are both mounted in the same way of having holes down the roof and then being nutted from underneath. So whenever we mounted the roof racks on these Sharks, you do have to drop the roof lining to get to the access of the nuts. Same with the Canon, you will have to drop the roof lining to try and get those nuts out and get the rails out to allow new accessories to go on there. That is something to keep in mind with the two of these. It is both the same, so same procedure between each of them. One other thing which is a big difference between these two cars is the towing capacity. So the Shark has a 2.5 ton towing capacity, that's brake towing capacity. So is not a full amount if you were towing something big, but you can still tow with it. One thing that has been a big problem since these cars came out was the tow mode. That's been fixed up at the moment, but there was an issue where the tow mode sort of would rob a lot of power, make the generator run a lot, and sort of ruin your fuel economy. It is still going to be an issue. These cars aren't really designed for continuous towing or heavy loads. They are more sort of designed as around being a soft off-roader, and having a very minimal actual capacity to add on stuff. So if you're wanting to just sort of have a tub full of stuff or maybe a small work trailer, it'd probably be okay every day to day. But if you're looking at actually towing a big van with it, the Canon might be a better option. So we'll jump over there to that tow bar and sort of go through some of the capacity features with each one of them. So here we are at the back of the Canon with its tow bar. They are rated to the full 3.5 ton you'd normally see. So if you are looking at towing a van that's relatively big, maybe 2.5 ton, 3 ton kind of size, this is probably going to be a better option for you, especially since it's more of a conventional hybrid. With having a conventional engine and transmission system, it's going to be able to handle that load a lot better and get better fuel economy when you compare it to the Shark. Not saying the Shark can't tow, just if you're wanting to do a longer trip off grid, this is probably going to be the better vehicle in terms of a hybrid system. So that'd be the big differences between the two of them. Obviously with this, you've got the battery pack right at the back over here as well. There isn't a super huge payload with these vehicles. So with this one, I think it's 685 from memory. And if you had your full 3 ton or 3.5 ton on the back there, you wouldn't have much payload left. So let's say you had 300 kilos worth of ball weight on there. That'd be then you're down to 385 worth of actual usable capacity for payload. So if you had 2 people in there, some luggage, you're probably going to fill it up pretty quick. So if you're looking at this in terms of needing to tow and have a huge amount of stuff in it, it might not be the best vehicle as well. So definitely have a look at those numbers. The same does go for the Shark as well. They're not really built for those kind of systems, but there is still a chance you can still tow something small with these as well. Alrighty, so those are the sort of main talking points between these two vehicles when it comes to sort of use cases. When you look at the Shark, it's probably better for the kind of person who's more using it as a day-to-day work vehicle, maybe 1 or 2 trips a year. You can then sacrifice your fuel economy on those one trip because you'll get the much bigger benefit of it around town. So that's where these come in. You can fill it up or even just charge it up every single day and get more fuel economy out of it. When you're looking at the Canon, that's more of a conventional style ute. So if you're used to something like a Hilux or a D-Max, you've had a ute for a while, but you want something that's a bit more hybrid or you want something that's a bit different, this is gonna be the option for you. So they're a great vehicle. We're really excited to have the opportunity for that. So a really big thank you to GWM Australia for letting us have this one for a while to test it out. Make sure to hit subscribe and like this video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.